Good morning and welcome to day 2 of your home learning. This is your second maths lesson, again live from my living room. So I thought we would do a little starter today and we'd have a look at some percentages because we have done these before, but it has been a while since we did these, definitely before Christmas. So I'd like you to work out 3% of 400. I will do this one with you and then I'll give you 2 to do independently afterwards. So we know that percentages are out of 100. So if I write 100 there as a reminder, if we're going to work out the percentage of a number, if we divide this by 100 first, that will tell us what 1% is. So 400 divided by 100. 400 divided by 100 will tell us what 1% is. So when you're dividing by 100, the digits are going to move to the right. They will move 2 places because there are 2 zeros in 100, a super easy way to remember. So if we have 400 in our place value grid, we will see that dividing by 100, the digits will move 2 places to the right. So this will go 1, 2, and end up in the hundredths column. This one will go 1, 2, and end up in the tenths column. Then you have your decimal place, and then the 4 will move 1, 2, and end up in the ones column, leaving us with 4.00. Now, as we know, those zeros, they're just placeholders, so we don't need those. We can get rid of those and just say 4. So 400 divided by 100 equals 4, which is 1%. Now that we know that 1% equals 4, to work out 3%, which is what we are looking for, we just multiply 1% by 3. So 4 times 3, it is 12. So 3% of 400 equals 12. So now it's time for you to have a go on your own. So I would like you to work out 7% of 600. Think about the steps that I went through and have a go yourself. You can pause the video now. Okay, so let's just go over this answer. Firstly, divide 600 by 100. That will give you 6 after the digits have moved 2 places to the right. You could have used a place value chart to help you if you needed to. So 6 is what 1% is. We're looking for 7%. So like before, we're going to times 6 by 7 to work out what that 7% is. So 7% equals 6 times 7, which is 42. Congratulations if you got that correct, well done. One final question before we move back on to some coordinates work. I would like you to work out 12% of 800. You can pause the video and have a go at this one now. Okay. So, divide 800 by 100 to work out 1%. 800 divided by 100 is 8. Again, we move those digits 2 spaces to the right because 100 has 2 zeros in it, a super way to remember. After you have 1%, which is 800, if I said 800 then I meant 8. After you've worked out 1%, which is 8, you can work out 12% by multiplying that 8 by 12. Because 1% is 8, if we want 12%, that's 12 times more. So 8 times 12 equals 96. So 12% of 800 is 96. And looking back, I realise I've just put a 6 here. That should not go there. 7% of 600 is 42. 1% of 600 was 6. Okay, so we are looking at coordinates again today. Our learning objective is all 4 quadrants. But before we start that, I'm just going to have a quick refresh over what we did yesterday to make sure that we have remembered it. So, I would like you to have a go at these questions. I would like you to write the coordinates of the blue and the red cross. So we have the blue cross here, and we have the red cross there. After you've written down those coordinates, I would like you to have a go at plotting the coordinate 4, 6 and plotting the coordinate 8, 3. Obviously you can't write on this, so you could just point to where you think they would be and then we'll go over the answers. So you can pause your screens now and have a go. Okay, so let's go over these answers. First, can you remember which is the x and which is the y-axis? Yep, so this is the x-axis down here, which means that this is the y-axis over here. So using that information, writing down the coordinates for the blue and the red cross. If we go along the x-axis, along the corridor, we meet 3 for the blue cross. And then if we go up the y-axis, up the stairs, we get to 3 also, which tells us 3, 3. So our coordinates for the blue cross are 3, 3. If we look at the red cross, again, we're going to go along the corridor, along that x-axis. We go all the way down to 9, and we follow the line up to 9. Then if we go up the y-axis, up the stairs, we get to 6. So that tells us that the coordinates for the red cross are 9, 6. So, plotting the coordinates, we are looking for the coordinate 4, 6. So we need to go along the x-axis first, and then we need to go up the y-axis. So we'll go along to 4, along the x-axis, and then we'll go up to 6 on the y-axis, and they will meet at this point here, which means that 4, 6 is there. So to plot this coordinate, we will go along the x-axis and then up the y-axis. So we can see that x is 8 and y is 3. So we'll go along the x-axis to 8 and up the y-axis to 3. And that shows us that they will meet at this point here. If you got all of those correct, well done, you are absolute superstars and you can have another credit. Remember, when you email me your work, tell me how many credits you've had and I will keep adding them to the list that I have so that we can sort out our certificates. So, a quick question. If we were to join these lines up, what quadrilateral do you think that would make? So if I join the blue and the yellow cross, I will join the green and the red cross, can join the green and the blue cross, and join the red and the yellow cross. So we have a quadrilateral here. What quadrilateral do you think that is? What is the name of it? Pause the video and have a quick think. If you said that that is a parallelogram, congratulations, you are correct. That is another credit you can have. You are an absolute superstar. Right, let's move on to the lesson for today. We are looking at all 4 quadrants. So our learning objective is all 4 quadrants. This quadrant over here is what we were looking at yesterday, where we have positive numbers this way and positive numbers that way. So positive on the x and positive on the y-axis. That is called the first quadrant. We go anti-clockwise when we're naming them, so we're going to go to the next one over here, which is the second quadrant, where you should be able to see that we have positive numbers on the y-axis and negative numbers on the x-axis. Then we come down to the third quadrant, where we have negative numbers on the x-axis and negative numbers on the y-axis. And then finally we have the fourth quadrant, which is here, where we have positive numbers on the x-axis and negative numbers on the y-axis. So I think we're quite confident to name the points in here with coordinates. So I'm going to place an orange cross just here. and I'd like you to have a think about what the position is. So pause your video now and have a think. Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to tell that we go along the corridor and we get to 2. Then when we go up the stairs, we get to 6. So along that x-axis, 2. Up that y-axis, 6. Which means that the coordinates for this point is 2, 6. I'm going to add some more points to the grid. So let's go to the 4th quadrant. If I place this x just there, what do you think the coordinates would be now? We obviously can't go along the corridor and up the stairs. That's not going to work because we're down here. So have a think. Okay, so similarly to along the corridor up the stairs, we're going to go along the corridor down the stairs. So along that x-axis, we get to the point where it meets, which is x on 4. And then we're going to go down the stairs to the point where we meet the x, which is -6. So for the coordinates for this point, it would be +4, -6. Okay, so the coordinates for this point is +4 and -6. So we put 4 for our x-axis and then -6 for our y-axis, telling us that our coordinates are 4, -6 for the black cross. I would like you to have a go at the next 3 that I place on the board now. So I'm going to place the blue cross here. I'm going to place the red cross here, and I'm going to place the green cross just here. Okay, so if you pause the video, you can have a go at naming these points on our quadrants. Okay, so if we start with this point in the 2nd quadrant, we will go along the corridor. We're still going along that x-axis, and we get to -4. So that tells us that our x-axis here is -4. Then we work our way up the stairs, up the y-axis, and it meets on +2. So we have here -4, +2. Let's try the red cross in the 3rd quadrant. Again, we're going to go along the corridor first, along that x-axis. So we go all the way along until we get to -5. If we follow the line down, we meet the red cross. So our x-axis is negative. Did I say -5? I meant -8. We got to -8. Then, if we follow down the stairs, we get to -6. If we follow that line along, we meet the red cross again. So that tells us that -6 is our y-axis. So x-axis -8, y-axis -6. Let's do the green cross. Again, start with the x-axis. So we're going to go all the way along until we get to the 6. And then we're going to work our way down the y-axis and we get to -3. So for our blue cross we have -4, 2. For our red cross we have -8, -6. And then we have our green cross at 6, -3. If you got all of those right, well done, you are a superstar. Okay, so this time, instead of working out where the crosses are and finding the coordinates, we already have the coordinates, and I'd like to have a go at plotting these crosses on here. So, have a think about the red one first. -4, 1. Where do you think that would go on here? Pause the video now and have a think. Okay, so let's do that red cross. minus 4, 1. So that tells us that minus 4 is our x-axis and 1 is our y-axis. So if we go along to minus 4, and then it is positive 1, which means we are going up. So minus 4, positive 1, our red cross should go there. Have a go at the blue cross. Positive 1 and negative 4. Okay, so let's do that blue cross. We are on positive 1 and negative 4. So along the x-axis, we're going to go to the 1. And we are now at negative 4, which means we're going down the y-axis this time. So positive 1, negative 4, our blue cross goes there. Have a go at the green and the orange cross, and then we will go through those answers too. So you can pause the video now. Okay, let's go through those answers. The green cross is negative 4, negative 1. So we are going to go along the x-axis to negative 4, and then we are at negative 1, so we are going down the y-axis, which tells us that the green cross should be about there. Negative 4, negative 1. Our orange cross, we have 4, 1. They are both positive numbers. So we're going to go along the x-axis to positive 4, and then we're going to go up the y-axis to positive 1, which tells us that the cross should be about there. Positive 4, positive 1. If you've plotted those in the correct places, well done. Right, I don't know if you've noticed, but Milo has turned up over here and he's told me that we have a point in every single quadrant, in the first, second, third and fourth quadrant. So we can check that using this grid. If we have a point in the second quadrant, which is over here, we would need to have a negative coordinate on the x-axis and a positive coordinate on the y-axis. So we go along to negative 4, positive y. So that is correct. Our first cross is in the second coordinate, in the second quadrant at negative 4, positive 1. If we look at the third quadrant down here, we would need a coordinate which is in negative on the x-axis and negative on the y-axis. So we go along, we get to negative 4, and we can go down to negative 1, which means the green cross is in the third quadrant. Negative 4, negative 1. If we move to the fourth quadrant over here, we would need a coordinate on the x-axis, which is positive, and a coordinate on the y-axis, which is negative. So if we go along, we are at positive 1, and we go down the x-axis to negative 4. So the blue cross is in the fourth quadrant at 1, negative 4. Which leaves us finally with the first quadrant. So to have a point in the first quadrant, we would need to have a coordinate on the x-axis, which is positive, and a coordinate on the y-axis, which is positive 2. So if we go along the x-axis, we have positive 4, and then we go up the y-axis, we have positive 1. So we have the orange cross at 4, 1. Congratulations, Milo, you were correct. There is a point in every single quadrant that we have. So, if I remove this from the board, you should find that any points that you have in the first quadrant will always have a positive x-axis and a positive y-axis coordinate. When you go to the second quadrant, you should find that the coordinates on the x-axis are always negative and the coordinates on the y-axis are always positive. When you go to the third quadrant, what do you think? Do you think they will be negative, positive, positive, negative, 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 positive, positive? Have a think. Pause the video here. Okay. So hopefully you have worked out that along the x-axis we have negative numbers and down the y-axis we have negative numbers as well, which means any coordinates in the third quadrant will always be negative on the x-axis and negative along the y-axis. Which leaves us finally with quadrant 4. Again, pause the video here. What do you think? Okay, so along the x-axis we have positive numbers, and then down the y-axis we have negative numbers, which means that in quadrant 4 you will always have points which have a positive coordinate along the x-axis and a negative coordinate along the y-axis. Okay, year 6, so you are now ready to start your worksheets for today. They will be below the video, just like last time. So everybody has this worksheet to complete first, and it has 2 pages. Once you have completed that, there is a challenge for you as well. So if you found these 2 worksheets quite easy, you can go on to challenge 1, which looks like this. If you found it super easy, then you may want to skip challenge 1 and go straight to challenge 2, where the questions are quite tricky. Okay, so those are your challenges for today. I would expect most people to be able to get on to challenge 1. I would expect some people to be having a go straight away at challenge 2. Good luck, have some fun with your maths, and I will see you in the literacy video later.